from me as TL from CS. My members do have sessions with you tomorrow, but this is the last one I'm going to be having with you. Um, and this is just a reminder, although we went through the entire process, if anybody just joined or whatever the case is, please use this link, check where your entity is supposed to be. I'm in here with beginners in the room, and frequenters need to get their own place to have their own discussion with Neruz and Kala. So we're going to be having the beginner's manual, as I've mentioned. And with you here today again is me, Cello, head of CS. And the one thing I wanted to share with you for this session is that I love learning new languages. I am fluent in both English. Okay. I'm fluent in both English and Setswana, which is my native language. I have studied a bit of French, but I forgot most of the things, and I am currently studying in Russian. So I am versatile in the language of Russian. So if we have any Russian speakers here or people who studied Russian at any point, feel free to reach out, shout out, and we can have a quick chat. Again, not copying Raulito's tactics. There's my Instagram. And over to you, Serene.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Cello. So for the second time, I am being co-host with my amazing team leader. This is Cyrine. I am Europe region responsible from customer support ICB. And I did write this only because he asked me to write something. So I said I'm always having an extra plan because I didn't find anything specific to just define myself with. So I remember that I'm a big planner. I'd like always to have more than one or two plans in case something goes like down. And that's my Instagram that I also didn't put there. It was Cello's idea to put our Instagrams. So hello everyone and welcome to this session.
Thank you so much, Serene. And thank you for throwing me under the bus in front of the entire world and setting the wrong expectations in front of everybody. But yeah, these are my members, guys. I try to encourage them to be more open and sharing with everybody else. So for the session, for this session, we are going to have far much more engagement than we did in the previous one. So the more you engage, the more you will get from this session. We will also have a short planning for specific KPIs. And this is if you are in ECB. If you are not in ECB and you are maybe a member of any LC or you are from the MC, this will help you to understand what we are communicating to ECBs so that when they do come to you with whatever we're going to be telling them, then this is something that will not come as a shock to you, but something that you are aware of, that you understand, and you would be able to cooperate better. Also taking in mind the sessions that we've had previously in, I don't remember if it's day 1 or day 2, but there was a session about the synergy between MC and ECBs, and also there was ECB connections. So if outside people are here who are not ECBs, then we highly welcome you. And yeah, we also advise you to take advantage of the beginner's mindset. And this is that the beginner's mindset basically is that nobody knows everything, and that everybody, for them to master a particular thing, starts from a certain point. So even though I am also here sitting in front of you and telling you all these things, at some point I didn't know any of this. At some point I was also a member of an LC and I didn't take customer centricity seriously, or I didn't know how to go about it. At a certain point I was an ECB chair and I still wasn't able to comprehend the complexity or the intricacies of dealing with customers and how best to deal with them. So have an open mind and be ready to learn and adjust using the information that you're going to learn today in order for us to provide a better, more customer-centric value or assistance to the people that we help. And the last thing is for you to listen attentively to what others are going to be sharing, because even though this is not specifically a GCP session, there will be instances where you get to hear about what other people are doing, how other people are planning on improving in their entities and so on. And these are things that you can actually benefit from yourself. And for the session outline, we will have a discussion about customer support, which is, customer support. And then we will move on to the customer solving flow. So that's what CSF stands for. But we will also look into how the CSF flow aligns with KPIs for customer support processes. And then we will have a call to action in the end.
Okay, thank you so much, Cello. So guys, we will start with the first section, which is the basics of customer support. Okay, so first of all, we'd like to start with testing how much. Okay. We'd like to start with testing how much you know about the case solving flow with the code that Cello just shared. So, Cello.
Yes.
You were going so fast with the slides. Okay, so you can take care of this code.
Yes, so all you need to do is you need to go to kahoot.it and you need to put the game pin that we have here, 9781768. We can see that we have Tamtam, we have Queen. We will wait for a couple of others to join and then we will start the Kahoot. I don't have access to the chat screen. How many people do we have in the room?
Actually, we have 21.
Cool. So we have 4 out of 20, well, 5 now. We will wait for a couple more, then we will start. Is anybody having difficulties joining? We'll wait for the last 2, so we at least have 10. Okay. Now we're starting to lose people, so we'll just start. Cool. So the first question is, who is the first person in EP on Exchange should contact when they have an issue? And the correct answer is the HE representative. I understand why some of you might have noted SE, taking into consideration that this person is from that entity. But if an EP is realized and is on exchange and they have an issue that they need to deal with, the first person that they need to contact is the person on the ground, which is in this case the HE representative. If that particular issue was not solved or they're finding difficulty in communication with this person, then they can contact you to tell you as SE that this is something that is going on and that they need you to intervene. And actually, in this instance, this is where we would now have the next stage of the customer solving flow, or the first one rather, which is the LC to LC stage. So we will go for the next. We have TamTam at the top, Unicorn, and Optimus Prime. So if the LCs fail to reach an agreement, who should they approach? Everybody is clear on this part, so we will move without any need of explanation. TamTam still at the top. And LC to LC stage should take 3 days. Is this true or is this false? Interesting. I'm actually interested in knowing how long the people who said false feel it should take, but according to the APIP, it's supposed to take exactly and not more than 3 days. If more than 3 days have passed and they fail to reach a solution, then they need to loop in their ECBs as soon as possible. And now we have Optimus Prime on top. When an ECB does not answer you and the ECB to ECB phase has exceeded 7 days, what should happen? Should you wait and hope that they will respond? Should you have to file, or do you have to file an OCA because there was no solution within 7 days? Should you send them a WhatsApp message to tell them you are waiting for a response? Or do you just need to wait for them to respond? And the right answer is that you need to file an OCA. And we have the smiley with glasses on top now. And this one is just a puzzle, so you need to arrange in order, like which stage comes first until the last. We're missing 2 more people for this, so one more person. We're done. So 67% of you answered right, and 33% of you answered otherwise. This is something that we will explain during the session so that you understand better how the order is supposed to be if you're part of the 33%. And we have the final question here, which is, when does the ECB to ECB stage officially begin? Is it when a complaint ECB likes the picture of the respondent ECB on Instagram? Is it when an official email is sent from complaint ECB to respondent ECB? Is it when a call from ECB complaint to respondent ECB is made? Or is it when a WhatsApp message from complaint ECB is made to the respondent? And really? Okay. So kudos to whoever said that you have to like the Instagram page. That's really cool. But you have to send an official email. And yes, no calls. You still have to send an official email. WhatsApp is totally out. And a reason why we brought this question, or something for you to understand, is some of you, or most of you, have a tendency to want to write through WhatsApp because you feel that it is quicker, but that is not regarded as you entering into the ECV to ECV stage of the customer solving flow, case solving flow. So this is something that you really need to watch out for. And finally, in the podium, we have Optimus Prime in third place with 5 out of 6, same as General. And then we have in first place the Smiley. I don't know who this is, but congratulations to you. And then we have the runners up in fourth place, Queen and Tam Tam. So thank you guys for engaging in, thank you guys for engaging in this Kahoot. We will now move on to presenting again, and Cyril will take over.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, guys. So, like I said, we will start with the basics of customer support. And the first thing is to reflect on the definition of customer support. It's actually the act of providing timely, empathetic help that keeps customers' needs at the forefront of every interaction. There is a very famous word that we start hearing the moment we join ISIC, and on the way in our journey getting through different positions, which is the customer centricity of ISIC. So the customer centricity of ISIC is actually reflecting all the efforts that we are trying to do on different levels in ISIC to try to provide the best customer support services. So next, Cello, please. But a very important thing to know when reflecting on the basics of customer support is actually what are the keys to provide this service. Clear? So, in order to level up our customer support, there are several skills that we need to gain no matter what our position is. Click. First of all, it's attentiveness. So you need to be very focused through the way in any process you are engaged in with our customers. You need to be very focused. You need to be observing. So whenever something bad happens, you will be ready to deal with that. And that's the first skill you need to have in order to be like a person who masters customer services. The second thing is to have emotional intelligence. And here we are looping with the session that was given already in the past days by Ra'at, which is how to gain this emotional intelligence skill. And actually, what is the part of this skill in customer services? It's when you can deal with different emotions of your customer without making it personal. So if your customer is angry or he's frustrated, you know how to deal with that specific emotion without making it about you and trying to like be very defensive, and maybe you lose the customer through the way. And this is the emotional intelligence part that is implicated in customer services. The next skill is ability to communicate clearly. A lot of misunderstanding happens when we are dealing with our customers. And I will be specific, I'm talking about like EPs here. So sometimes we're not being clear. You can fall in setting expectations wrong because you didn't make your point clear, and then that will lead you maybe to a potential case later on. So your clear communication skills is something you have to master to avoid too many problems, and also to negotiate better and to like convince better your customer. Next, we have the ability to use a positive language. You need to master how to like say the thing that you want to say, but keep a positive vibe. So without looking like you are attacking him or you are trying to criticize him, or like you sound very pessimistic, you need to like try to be positive with your customer and show it that you are ready to do whatever it takes to make him feel comfortable in his experience, or to have like a closure for him if he's complaining about anything. It's about being positive. You need to make your customer feel that there is someone who gets him well and is ready to do whatever it takes to give him what he was promised when engaging in our organization. The next thing is actually writing skills. And this you need through the whole process, not only with the EP, it's also when negotiating with the other part. Either it's the ECB, LC, whatever, you need to have a good writing skills in order to prove your claims and to be able like to tell the whole story. Because as you know, like the official communication that we have in ISIC, it's emails. So if you do not know how to like prove your point or make your claims clear, it can be a reason you lose the whole complaint, or you cannot like prove the point. And it happens a lot that some people fall into the misunderstanding because the whole writing skills wasn't that good. And also the other part of writing skills is when you are texting, for example, your EP and you're trying to sound empathetic, it's about the words that you're gonna use. So I'm not talking only about making your point clear, but the choice of words that you will do, how you structure your emails, how you structure your communications is something very important to have. The next thing is actually unflappability, which is a person who's going to stay cool through the whole process. So we're not going to find people who are having anger crisis or like trying to shut in the faces of the EPs, or like having fights with other ECBs, because you have to stay cool. It's like if a mistake happens and you are the one that needs to deal with it, just deal with it, being objective. So it's not you need to, it's like being patient through the process and maintain a good like mood and attitude. So the next thing is tenacity, and this is very important, and here we are talking about the shortcuts. So some people think that they can still have the same outcome if they go through shortcuts, which is let's not do the whole case solving flow. Let's just move to ECB to ECB like level, or let's just I'm talking now also about when delivering an experience. They think that they can take out whatever they want from what they promised the EP or from the process and still have the same outcome. No, that's wrong. We need to be like very faithful to our policies, to our promises, to our process stages. So this is very important to stick to when trying to have that customer service dream process. Next, a method. Okay, I have to look to my left. A methodical approach. So there is no place to be random through this way. You need to set clear steps into like from the moment the EP is engaged to the moment he's no longer like his experience ended. You need to have clear steps on how to deal with every complaint, how to approach the other party. So there is no moment during this process that you will just act randomly. You need to have a plan. You need to have a method. The next one is problem-solving skills. And of course, being solution-oriented. So you need to know how to deal with a problem when it happens, like just do not panic. We have a whole like legal documents that has in steps what you have to do, whom you have to reach out for that specific thing. So just follow them and try to be effective in solving that problem. And the final thing is actually patience. Be patient through the whole process. Some cases take long to be solved. Some EPs actually are not easy to understand, and that's okay, because that's our part here, is to be patient and try to like see it through with them and provide the best that we can, because that's our part here. So that's it in terms of the basic skills for customer support. Next, we have a question. So small, very small sharing space. Do you believe you provide timely, empathetic customer support in your entity? We will take sharings in the chat. So please write down if you think you are actually providing timely, empathetic customer support. Okay, ECB Chair Georgia is saying no. Thank you so much for your honesty, by the way. Other sharings? ECB Chair Latvia is also saying no. I'm trying to avoid reading names because I don't want to like read them wrong. So sorry about this. Any other sharings before we move? We can improve. Yeah, certainly. And that's why we are having this kind of spaces, is to actually reflect on what we have and try to come up with ways to improve it. Okay. So, effective and efficient customer support. We'll make this quick because it seems like we don't have a lot of time left. So, what an effective and efficient customer support looks like in ISEC. Click. More positive word of mouth, like we were speaking. It's about the way you will approach the customer. It's about your negotiation speeches that you will have with other parties. Also, builds trust and loyalty. If you provide the perfect customer support services to your customers, whoever you is, EP, opportunity provider, a partner, so you are building trust. You are making this person have a trust in our organization and be loyal to it, and engaging him in that circle, so he will be always engaged and implicated with ISEC. The next thing is, poor quality exchanges are actually the opposite of living through a challenging experience. So when we are providing experiences to our EPs and actually taking a couple of major elements that we were supposed to provide, some people call this a challenging environment. Actually, it's not. That's a poor quality experience. So we need to make the difference between these two, and I believe the moment we do, we are one step away from having the perfect customer servicing environment. The next one is our ISEC values. A very effective and efficient customer support is actually inspired from our ISEC values, and it's actually the place where we put these values into action. So it's not coming from another place, it's coming from our core. So just we reflect to our basics and to our core, and you will come up with the perfect customer support service. So that was, and before we promise this to our customers every day. Yeah, actually, the first moment that an EP or an opportunity provider is engaged with ISEC, the first thing we promise him is, you will get the best experience with ISEC. We will always be here to support you, stuff like this. So it's not really hard to keep our promises, since we had the guts and the power and the strength to actually say them to those customers. So all we have to do is to keep them and stick by our promises. So like this, we reach a very efficient customer support. And that was, you can click Cello. Thank you. So that was the first part, talking about the basics. And the last thing we're gonna say before getting to the next section is, customer support is your responsibility and that of your else's. So it's something that you will have to make sure you establish and create a nice foundation for, of course, not only by yourselves as ECB chairs, but also to make it the foundation for the whole entity, starting from ELSIS. The next thing is we will just have this one to before going to the next section, which is what are you doing to ensure that they provide such a support? So what are you doing as an ECB chair, as an entity, to make sure that the LCs are actually providing such a support? Maybe we can take like 2 sharings. Anyone? Anyone wants to share? Chalo.
Yes.
Am I missing sharings or Denise? Nothing.
No, there's only one from General. He just sent one now.
Okay. Being there for everyone, anytime, provide answers for the uncertainty. Yeah, that's actually cool. Okay, that's cool. It was just a space, a small sharing space to reflect before getting to the next section. So we will just move, I guess, to the next part with Cello.
Cool. Amazing. So the second part is where we look at the customer solving flow itself, case solving flow. And the case solving steps are that it has to start from, well, we mentioned that the EP should try as much as possible to solve this issue with the hosting entity representative while they're realized. But if that doesn't work, then we move on to the first stage of the case solving flow, which is the LC to LC stage. This has to take a maximum of 3 days. It should not take longer than this. And unfortunately, there are certain circumstances or situations where not EP, sorry, LCs are not available to talk to the EP. Sometimes we have reasons such as I was traveling or we're at a conference or whatever the case is. But we would like to highlight or remind people that dealing with customers and giving them the best value, even when supporting them, is of great importance. So in situations, and this is an educational point for you to pass on to your LCs if you are ECBs, that in cases where the person responsible to deal with that issue with the EP is not available, somebody else needs to be put into place to deal with the issue. So if you know that you're going to a conference or you know that you're going to be traveling, somebody needs to be there in your place to deal with any of the EP issues that you might face. In the event that we do not have this issue solved at LC level within those 3 days, then we need to move on to the next stage, which is the ECB to ECB stage. And as we have already highlighted, this is something that needs to be done formally by email. We have had many cases where ECB chairs, for whatever reason, decide that they want to have the conversation about the case on WhatsApp first, and only if they feel that they cannot solve the issue between themselves, that is when they decide to now start writing formal emails. This is wrong. You are not supposed to be going about it this way, because you end up even breaking the timeline that is set, because the ECB to ECB stage should not exceed 7 days. The 96 hours that you see here next to the ECB to ECB stage is the working hours between, like the time that each ECB is given to respond to the other. So once the complaint ECB sends a formal email to the respondent has 48 hours to respond. After the respondent has responded, after these 48 hours, the complaint is then given another 48 hours to look at the response of this person and hopefully come to a conclusion on what needs to be done. If at all there's need for extensions, then you need to formally inform as a respondent or as a complaint. If you ever need to extend the timeline for the case, then you need to do so formally, and both parties have to agree on that extension. We have had many cases where ECB chairs or ECB teams are not responding, are delaying for whatever reasons that they have. And when you come to us with consultancies, we then find out that you actually do not what do you call this? You actually did not agree on this, and somebody was just taking advantage of the other party. Again, this is something that you should avoid at all costs. The maximum point or the highest point that we will ever reach in the case solving flow is when this now is brought to ICB in the form of an official case application. We understand that an OCA is something that a lot of people are afraid of getting, and sometimes even a lot of people are afraid of filing an OCA against other entities. But if you truly are going to follow the case solving flow, if after these 7 days and there was no extension requested, there's no solution at ECB level, you cannot come to an agreement. Honestly, you just need to come to ICB and file an official case application. In cases or situations where you are trying to solve this case at ECB to ECB level, but you need to consult ICB, this is what you need to do within the 48 hours that you are each given. So, for example, if the complaint entity sends something and they are unsure of how to deal with the issue, then that is the time for you to come to us for a consult and say, hey, ICB, 1234 XYZ, and we will assist you. If you understand that during the consultancy of ICB, it is probably taking longer than usual, then longer than it is supposed to take, because sometimes you come to us with very specific cases that have so many proofs that we need to look at and so on and so forth, and it takes us longer, then you need to inform the other party and tell them that you are still seeking consultancy from ICB and you would like to extend by a certain amount of time. And what we usually do as ICB is that we actually do inform you if we need more time and when you would need that appropriate response. If you have ever come to us and this is something that hasn't happened to you, then we apologize in advance, or we give a belated response, but this is something that we try as much as possible to do. But taking all of this into consideration, we should understand that the best case scenario of any solving any issue is that the EP's issue or case is solved within 3 days. Just think about yourself, put yourself in the shoes of the EP, and imagine that you are the one who is on exchange or needs answers from someone or whatever the case is. And this happens to us all the time. We travel, we go to places and stuff like that. But if it were us who needed assistance from whatever company or Amazon or Apple or whatever travel agency that you're working with, you would literally stand your ground and demand that people actually help you within a quick time, within the shortest period of time possible, because you need to make further decisions based on what these people are going to give you or the assistance that they're going to provide. So if you keep delaying the process or the case solving flow, it means that the EP needs to wait even longer for them to have their solution solved and for them to have the issue solved. And sometimes, or in most cases, upon consultancy, we realize that some of these things or most of these things could have actually been solved in the first stage. And it's just because of mistakes that we made as ISACAs that led us to, dragging the case for as long as possible. So, um, we will have a quick Menti. So the main question here is, this is the best case scenario, but what is actually our reality? The best case scenario is that we should have it solved in 3 days, but the actual reality is that, well, you know your reality and you know your entities. So please go to www.menti.com and then use the code 21338876 that you see on the screen. We will keep the Menti open for 3 to 4 minutes, 4 minutes maximum, because we are slightly running behind time. So please share with everybody and write there. So the question again is, we have 3 days to solve, 3 days to solve the case is the best case scenario, but what is actually our reality? Okay, so that we have one response there so far, and that
Hi,
is that it may take more
hi,
time.
Cello.
Yes.
I just have one question. I'm still confused. You asked this question: 3 days to solve a case is our best case. What is our reality? Like, what is this question means?
Okay. So it basically means that in the entire case solving flow, like if the right education was given to LCs, if the right assistance was given to them from ECB level and so on, then there wouldn't be a need for cases to drag for as long as they do. Because the actual reality, as mentioned by other people here, is that sometimes cases take a year, sometimes cases take 2 months. And most of the issues that we deal with are issues that could have been solved at LC level. But the problem is that LCs sometimes, or most of the time, don't know how they need to proceed, or they don't know about the case solving flow, or they do not even understand what the role is in terms of the case solving flow itself. So when we say the 3 days to solve the case is the best case scenario, we mean that if the right education is given, if the right downscaling of information and so on is provided to LCs, then most of the cases that we have shouldn't even reach ECB level or ICB level. So these are the answers that we have for now. So not proper education is given 1 year, sometimes quarters. I think this means that sometimes it takes a quarter, I think. And then we have 2 months. So we will keep it here. Oh, there's even more. Right tracking. Yes, that's another issue. Improper tracking of cases and what is actually happening on the ground. Cool. So thank you for your answers. I will quickly come back to the presentation and expand on this. So we have spoken about the time that it takes from each level. So from the ECB, from the LC to LC stage, from ECB to ECB, and also to the time that it should take at ICB level. We have also mentioned or highlighted the issues or the problems that the organization, well, that ISIC is going through. And we have mentioned situations such as improper education given to the EPs, that sometimes it takes too long because we are not able to track these things and so on. And we also mentioned that LCs, like customer support, is not only the responsibility of an ECB, it is not only the responsibility of the MC of the entity, but it starts from the LC to LC stage. Like customer centricity, like customer support is their responsibility as well. But as ECBs, you need to make them aware of this through the education that you give and so on. And if we look at the case of the CSF and KPIs, in the case of the LC to LC stage, two of the things that you can actually try to do is that if you know that it should take a maximum of 3 days for them to be able to solve the issue or come to a conclusion, so even when they come to you for consultancies within this period, you shouldn't take long to respond to them. And actually, in fact, the best way to ensure that you don't receive too many consultancies within this small window of 3 days is for you to be proactive in the education that you are providing when it comes to customer related processes. You need to train your LCs to set key performance indicators for responding to customers and to avoid delays. And these are things that I mentioned already in the previous slides. Like when somebody knows that they are unavailable and so on, these are things that they need to take into consideration and look into. Proper communication with EPs. We do not just ignore EPs because we know that we are somewhere and we are doing something else. We cannot reach them or get to them. They need your feedback and they need to understand that you truly have seen what the issue that they are facing and that you are actually going to do something about it, because people start to panic when they start to feel like they have to talk to too many people and they're not getting any assistance from anyone. So these are things that you really need to take mind of. And according to the case solving flow, if you know that you have 7 days to solve the issue as ECB, and if you know that your LC needs to take 3 days maximum, then you need to create KPIs that will allow you to track and ensure that nobody exceeds this limit, that your LCs do not exceed the 3 days, that you as ECBs do not exceed the 7 days, and that even when you're consulting with ICB, this timeline is something that is actually taken into consideration when you are doing your work. So, so this is just a reminder that when dealing with cases or issues that need that EPs are dealing with, you really need to be strict with time. You honestly need to be strict with time, and you need to make sure that you do provide the most efficient and most effective support that you can to your EPs. It is not only your responsibility, again, you need to ensure that your LCs are aware of this and that you downscale these things in the right way that they will be able to understand. So we won't have enough time for us to draft the KPIs as we had planned, but just keep this question in mind. Like, what KPIs will you have to ensure that your entity respects the case solving flow timeline? Whether this is relating to you, whether this is relating to your LCs. So please keep this question in mind. And the intention is for you to actually, after this session or after this conference, for you to actually start working on actual key performance indicators, time-related key performance indicators that you will use to ensure that your entity becomes more efficient when it comes to dealing with customers. And you can just quickly write in the chat 1 or 2 words. I will give exactly a minute for this, a minute or 2. So what are you going to do? What are you going to start doing differently today to improve your customer support? So we have already understood the issues that there is a problem, that we are probably not providing the right support that we should be giving to exchange participants, to our stakeholders. We probably have an idea of the reasons why this is not happening. We understand now what we should be doing and our role in the case solving flow. So from all of this, what is it that you are actually going to start doing? Where did we start? Okay. Chinkita says we need to be more strict with time, but in some cases we take time to collect proofs and everything. Yes, this happens in some cases where you need to like collect proofs or whatnot, or consultancy, like I mentioned with ICB. But in cases like this, you honestly need to keep your EPs informed, and you need to make sure that there are official agreements of extensions between you and the other party. So don't take a unilateral decision as an ECB on the other side saying, I have to collect more proofs, so I will just keep extending the time without informing the other person. I mean, party. They always need to be informed and they always need to agree on this, because, I mean, that is what happens in negotiations. Yes, education, better communication from General. Chinkita says to have a proper education to my LCs. Dhruv says to reevaluate and reinvent our current practices. And Ayad says better tracking by communication. So do take note of these things, like wherever you might be taking notes, and do ensure that you actually follow through on these things that you say that you are going to start implementing in your entities. So we will have the last part, which is the call to action with Siri.
Okay, so thank you so much, Chelo. Please go to the next slide. So for the call of actions, most of them are already inspired from things you already wrote in the chat. The first thing is develop a tracking system for all cases, even from LC to LC level. You do not want to be surprised when a case like an EP directly approaches ICB because the LC to LC level didn't work out for them. You need to be aware of what's happening in your entity and to track all, have the KPIs that Cheryl was talking about, track every case, have every situation wrapped and dealt with before it escalates. The second one is you will have to educate your LCs more on how to negotiate better and the role in case solving flow. They need to understand like what they have to do, how they have to do it. So how to approach the EP, what time they need to take. So it all gets us back to the KPIs that you have to set and educate your entity about. The next call to action is to be more proactive in the support you give your LCs during case solving or consultancies. So they do not like know everything, or sometimes they are faced to a situation that they do not know how to act. So you need to make it clear to your LCs that they are welcome to approach ECB at any level of doubt. The next thing is to make sure you are very responsive to the LCs, customers, and correspondent ECB when negotiating. It's very strict for you to to respect all the deadlines that the case solving flow has, because unless you do that, the case will still be hanging there, and we cannot keep a customer waiting, and sometimes the case is urgent, or even if it's not, since a complaint is there, it needs to be solved. And for it to be solved, we need all the parties to be present and responsive. So your part here is to make sure you are responsive to your entity, to ICB, to the correspondent ECB, and to the customer. So we do not need communication to be there, not answered for, and that's mostly one of the main reasons why cases take so long, is because one of the parties is mainly unresponsive. So these are the main call to actions that you need to start reflecting on and making sure you start doing it the right way. The next thing that we wanted to talk about, and we actually have only small time left, is we want you always to remember that you are not alone. Approach ICB customer support for any doubts you have about cases, or if something is unclear in the PIP. Like we were talking, like Chelo and Iruz were talking in the previous session, we have a customer support portal, and this is the link for it. For any doubt, just approach ICB. People do not approach ICB only when a serious situation is there, or only when they are going to file an official case application. You can approach us earlier when you're still negotiating, or where you have any doubt that you'd like to have more information about. And in this part, I want to make a couple of things clear. Trello, please click. Approaching ICB myths. There are some wrong ideas that some ECB chairs may have about approaching ICB, and you want them to end with this session. First of all, some people actually think that ICB will sanction them if they consult on a case that they will probably lose. And that's wrong. So you think when you're going to consult with ICB and your entity did commit a violation of accommodation or whatever it is, ICB will just be there to sanction you from the first communication. No, actually, it's a consultancy. It's not an official case application. What ICB will do is, please click. CS is meant to guide you through any doubts you may have during case solving flow and notify you if a violation is spotted. We will certainly tell you that your entity is committing a serious violation, please be observe the situation and try to deal with this before it escalates. We will guide you on what to do and give you the answers to your consultancy. We're not here to sanction you from consultancy stage. The next one, which is also a wrong idea, I will probably show a lack of knowledge if I consult on a PIP clause. No, we're not expecting you guys to master the whole document word by word and know every clause and know where to find everything. Yeah, you're supposed to read it, you're supposed to know it, you're supposed to know what it has, but you are supposed to have doubts about it. That's totally normal. So, and here comes our role as customer support. We are not here to judge, and CSGD is to make clauses clearer and to make sure that they are being interpreted the right way. We are here to make sure you understand them well and you can use them well and apply them to the right situation. The next one is I don't know how to structure my consultancy email so I won't embarrass myself. Some people do not approach CS because they just don't know how to write that email. So they think, okay, let it go. I will just handle the situation on my own. This is an old problem because it was solved currently with the ticket forms. And well, that would be fine, of course, even if we still have emails. If it's okay for you to just write it wrong or whatever, we will still guide you through that. But we made it easier for you. You will just fill fields on our customer support portal. So it's all about just filling fields. So that's all. Now we are supposed to have questions answered, but it's time for this session to end. I'd like to notify you people that you will have a break of 30 minutes. But if any one of you has questions, you can still be here and ask them. But if someone wants to leave, that's very understandable because your break starts just now. We will still be here, me and Cello, to answer any questions you have about the content of the session and anything related that you'd like to know about CS.
Hi, yeah, I got a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you were saying that about the timeline for the ECBs to find a solution for the case, or like to solve the case. And you were saying that it takes 7 days for the ECBs to finalize the case, or like the best case scenario, it should be seven days. And isn't it the job of for the ECB to find the case, to find a solution for the case? And even though it should it might take more than 7 days, like if he knows he can solve it, like does he have to go to the ICB even if it takes more than 7 days? But he knows he can solve it. But because I think this is the job for the ECB. They should find a solution no matter what the time. But of course not a very long time, but like in a timely manner. But if they can't find a solution, like what's your answer about that?
Okay. I will answer you and then I'll give Cello, maybe has something to add. I think you were speaking about what if 7 days are not enough for ECB to find that solution, but it's their duty to find it. And that's why there is an extension for that time. You just have to agree both ECBs for that extension. And if you still think the conversation with the other ECB and the negotiations can still be fruitful, you can ask for an extension, agree both of you on that, and then have the whole process extended. But if the other correspondent doesn't agree for that extension, and they think this should be upscaled to ICB, then yeah, that's what's going to happen. I don't know if Chalu maybe understood more and wants to add something.
No. That's exactly what I was going to say, that the most important thing here is requesting that extension from the other ECB and ensuring that you have that agreement between the two of you. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you from I don't know which ECB you're from because I can't see the chat. But if you as an ECB from whatever country or whatever entity feel that you can still solve it, but the other party feels that you are delaying and they want to file an OCA, then this is something within the right, because at the end of the day, there was no extension and there was no solution. So these are things that you need to be mindful of, that we are not yes, we would like to be within the 7 days, but like Serene said, just make sure that you have that extension agreement between the two of you. And again, it shouldn't be too long, like requesting an extension for a whole month or something.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so do you have any additional questions, guys? Yeah, just another OC reminder, like this is the break you were supposed to have, and after this break, we will have a GCP space. It's for ECB cases management. It's a very important space. You've been getting like theoretical knowledge through the day, and GCP spaces are very important to see everything on a practical level. So just take your break, but make sure you come back for the GCP space because it's very important for you to consolidate the knowledge you had.
Cool. Just to answer Chinkita, you will receive a tracker as part of the outputs. So like all the trackers that we need to share with you, you will get in the outputs from the conference. If there aren't any other questions, then we would like to say thank you for attending this space, and we hope it was really fruitful and valuable to you. But that's it. We are done.
Yeah, thank you for the
Thank
space. It
you.
was really